no place like the Q. Family, this is your favorite queer radio personality, Anna DeShawn, and I sound more like myself this week. I feel more like myself this week, okay? And this is Queer News, your favorite weekly news pod where race and sexuality meet politics, culture, and entertainment.
Listen, this is a year of liberation. You know, with all the executive orders, and executive orders don't stop no movement, it was so important for us to be in D.C. at a time like this. When they told us that we could not come, we came anyway. If you look around and you see all of these people, this is coalition building that we doing over the next 3.5 years. We will meet, we will coalition build, and we will continue to push forward. I and Dr. Elijah will be on the international stage, making it known that we are not going nowhere, period, dot.
Period, dot. When Marissa closed with that right there, I knew we had a moment. I knew we had a clip. That was Marissa Miller, founder of Trans Solutions Research and Resource Center, as well as the Senior Strategic Director for the National Trans Visibility March. And it was at the march that we got to catch up. I love this clip so much because there are so many people trying to figure out what to do in this moment, and she gives the blueprint. Coalition build. Find your people and do the work to survive. That's what we have to do right now. QCrew, thank you for your continued commitment to helping to sustain this podcast. Couldn't do it without you. You all helped to cover the cost of Ryan, who I wouldn't want to do this podcast without. And so if you're listening to this and you're not part of the Q Crew, but you believe in the work we do, you believe LGBTQ stories need to be amplified, you love and respect how I report on the news and tell our stories, join the Q Crew. A link is in the show notes. And now, family, do you have a local news story not getting enough amplification? A queer organization other folks should know? Are you an artist? You got a song coming out? Send in a queer news tip. I love hearing them from all over the country. Keep them coming, okay? Info on how to submit is in the show notes. Now for the news, we will honor the life of Jewel Tyus Williams. I learned so much about her this past week. My timeline was flooded, okay? And now that I know, you need to know too. In politics, Wisconsin Supreme Court has set a path to ban conversion therapy. And a new report shows just how deep the funding cuts have been for LGBTQ organizations. In culture and entertainment, we have an Artis restaurant update for you. American Airlines is standing with us out loud, and BET Plus drops a new show all about the Black queer ballroom scene. Let's get into it. Family, when I was deciding what the first story of the pod was going to be this week, it wasn't hard at all. Because all of us need to take some time, first thing, and thank Jewel Tyus Williams for all the work that she did out here in the world. My timeline was flooded. People tagged me. People wanted me to make sure that not only did I know about Jewel, but that I talked about her and that we were going to honor her on this podcast. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to honor the life of Jewel Tyus Williams, an icon whose impact reached far and wide beyond her wildest imagination. She passed the week of June 7th, but the news was shared this past week with the public. She died at the age of 86. In 1973, Jewel opened Jewel's Catch One in LA. Most people called it Catch One. It was the first Black-owned LGBTQ plus nightclub in the city and one of the very first in the country. It is as iconic as the Warehouse in Chicago, okay? And she opened Jewel's Catch One at a time when Black and brown and trans and queer people were routinely turned away from gay clubs because of racism. When clubs were being raided by the police, Jewel's Catch One became what so many people needed, a refuge. Jewel once said, I opened Catch One to give folks like me a place to be themselves, to be safe, to be seen. It was never just about music or drinks. It was about saving lives. And y'all know she saved lives, right? Beyond the club, Jewel co-founded the Minority AIDS Project, opened Rule's House, the first residential care facility for women and children living with HIV/AIDS. And she launched the Village Health Foundation to bring holistic health care to communities often ignored by the system. Through it all, she faced racism, sexism, homophobia. And you know what she told the Lavender Effect? You have to have that inner fire that says, no, I belong here. We belong here. In 2019, Los Angeles renamed the intersection at Pico and Norton, where Jewel's Catch One resides, the Jewel Tyus Williams Square. Not only cementing her place in history, but becoming the first Black lesbian, to have an intersection named after her. Now, what I quickly realized this past week, after watching all the videos, reading all the commentary about her life and how she impacted folks, people I know who got engaged at the bar, people who shared stories about how it was their first Black queer experience at Catch One. So even as you may go and learn more about Jewel for yourself, please know that her legacy lives in every safe space she built from love, in every activist who keeps fighting, in every person who ever stepped onto the dance floor and finally felt free. And I do want to read a couple of quotes from folks. First up, Jazz Mechanic, journalist out of LA. She said, whether you knew her personally or not, you felt her. She made space for us long before it was trendy or safe. She saw us, she held us. Multiple generations of Black queer joy, safety, and community exist today because of Jewel Tyus Williams. The LA Times said, the joy experienced at Catch One was more than a weekend choice for fun. It was an act of defiance by Black, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in the face of clubs in West Hollywood where they felt unwanted. That's legacy. That's legacy. Thank you, Jewel Tyus Williams. Thank you for showing us how it ought to be done. Thank you. Family, for our next story, let's talk about the deep cuts happening in the world of philanthropy as it pertains to LGBTQ plus giving. For the 21st year, funders for LGBTQ issues released their resource tracking report. And the report shows that foundation support for our communities dropped nearly 20% in 2023. And when you factor in inflation, they say it's closer to 22%. Now, y'all want to know what that equates to? When we talk about dollars, it equates to a drop of $49 million. And this was in 2023. And to make this real, this report provides an example. So for every $100 foundations gave, only 20% reached LGBTQ plus causes. And that's down from 25 cents from the year before. Family, when they run this report for 2025, what do you think is going to be? The top funders cut support by 24%, with the single largest funder cutting their giving by 41%. And do you know the part that's really harmful for us and our communities is that this is the first time in decades the top funders and grantees are opting to remain anonymous. They are fearing the repercussions from the federal government, and that's a damn shame. The Trump administration is doing everything it can to regress this country back to a time where queer folks lived in fear. And let me share some more of their findings, okay? Support for Black LGBTQ plus communities fell by 41%. That equates to about $14.5 million worth of cuts. For our trans siblings, dropped by 24%, equating to $36 million in cuts. The youth fell 42%. Chile, these funding cuts are real. I'm hearing about them in my community every day. Folks are losing their jobs. Folks are fearful. And these drops and these cuts don't happen by chance. We all know it's part of the plan, right? According to the Trans Legislation Tracker, there have already been 948 anti-trans bills introduced this year alone, with 118 already enacted, 182 active. But can I give y'all the joy? 648 that have failed. Now, we are just halfway through the year. That many bills centered around one community simply because of hate. When these anti-trans bills go up, fear rises and funding tanks. And family, please know that these numbers are not just numbers. These numbers are lives. This is about safety. It's about the future of our movement. This report, let me tell you, when I saw it, it is a wake-up call, right? It costs money to fight for liberation. We need resources to fight for liberation. And it's clear as day to me that we must save ourselves. A good example of this is Lambda Legal. They had a goal of $100 million, and they raised $285 million. Now, that is impressive, no doubt. But you want to know the real impressive part? Is that 95% of that giving came from individuals, individual donors, not major funders. We must save ourselves, family. Now, if you want to see the full picture of this report, you can check it out at lgbtfunders.org. For our last story in politics, something big just happened in Wisconsin. Okay, so let's talk about it. This past week, the Wisconsin Supreme Court cleared the way for the state to finally ban conversion therapy. Family, conversion therapy is one of the most dangerous and, might I add, scientifically discredited practices that tries to quote unquote convert or force LGBTQ people to become somebody they're not. For years, the Republican-controlled legislature used its power to block the ban. But now, today, even in Wisconsin, the court is 4-3 on the liberal-leaning side, okay? And the court has said enough is enough. As Chief Justice Jill Karofsky wrote for the majority, the legislature was illegally taking action that alters the legal rights and duties of the executive branch and the people of Wisconsin. Because the governor's been trying to pass this ban, okay? And the Republican-led legislature have been blocking it, and the court said, y'all wrong. The Supreme Court said, y'all are taking illegal action. That's powerful today. It's powerful, and I will continue to say the courts are standing between us and our democracy. They are holding on, okay? They are holding the line right now. And this is a powerful decision that goes beyond conversion therapy. It weakens the legislature's ability to single-handedly stop rules that protect people, whether it's around mental health, the environment, or public health. Wilkin Gilbart, executive director of Midwest Environmental Advocates, said this decision will prevent a small number of lawmakers from blocking the enactment of protections passed by the legislature and signed into law. And I think this is a really important point because so often when I read these stories, it's a small group of people who are making a hell of a lot of noise through the courts and have the money and the backing to do so. Not that it's the majority of people, but it's a small number. We saw this especially with the book banning movement. And this is just a reminder, family, all of this is structural. And we've got to break it down brick by brick, law by law, amendment by amendment. And every victory like this brings us a little closer to the world that we want. And that is worth celebrating. Now, let's take a quick break. And when we get back, let's jump into culture and entertainment.
Mental health parity is the law requiring that your health insurance coverage for mental health or substance use disorders is no more restrictive than coverage for your physical health. Learn more about mental health parity laws at getcoveredillinois.gov.
If you're listening to this, it means we didn't sell this ad space. If you're listening to this, it means running ads on our podcast can actually work. You see what I did there? Do you need some promo? A little amplification? Hit us up at info@e3radio.fm. That's info@e3radio.fm. We have a platform. You should use it. Family, welcome back to the show. Now let's get into culture and entertainment. Do you all remember the story from last week about Artis, the Black lesbian-owned restaurant that is fighting to stay open after a tragic event occurred outside of their business? Currently, the owners are still fighting the alderman's office, and they could really use our help. And there are a couple of ways we can support. First, they're asking us to call Alderman Brendan Riley's office and tell them that we support the restaurant staying open. The number is 312-744-3062. It is 312-744-3062. Secondly, they have a GoFundMe that has started to help them with the mounting expenses of having a restaurant that isn't allowed to operate. Business expenses don't stop: rent, light bill, etc. Not to mention, there are costs for food waste at the restaurant, attorney fees, because they're trying to defend their business license. They want to continue to take care of their staff, not to mention their own personal expenses. They have a family. They have 2 children. Family, here at E3 Radio, we are standing with Artis, and I hope you do too. This event was tragic. It's heartbreaking. But family, that doesn't mean this restaurant should close. That is not the essence of this restaurant or the owners at all. So if you have money to give towards the GoFundMe, I've included a link in the show notes. And please keep everybody in your prayers and in your thoughts. And remember, our safe spaces matter, and we deserve to fight for them, and they deserve to stay open. Now, family, when I saw this story, I was so surprised. I said, this has to be in the podcast. We need to know which corporations are still standing with us. And American Airlines looks to be one of those organizations. At their latest shareholder meeting, American Airlines faced pressure from conservatives trying to force them to leave the Human Rights Campaign's Equality Index. Now, we've talked about this index on the show because it tells us which corporations are really doing the work. Not just showing up on Pride Night and during Pride Month, but who have us written into their policies, who's being inclusive every single day. And so if you aren't familiar with this index, it scores big companies on how LGBTQ plus inclusive they really are. They measure a company's non-discrimination policies, equitable benefits, inclusive culture, and corporate social responsibility. The conservative push came from the National Center for Public Policy Research, claiming Americans' long-standing commitment to our community was bad for business. But guess what? Shareholders weren't having it. Over 273 million shares voted to stay the course, to stay with us, while only 6 million voted to bail. Americans' board put it plainly: leaving the index adds, quote, no value, and would fly in the face of the love that they got from both employees and customers. And not only are they staying on the index, they are doubling down. They are sponsoring Dallas Pride again this year and standing firm in policies and benefits that support full inclusion. And y'all already know, so many companies have folded under the Trump administration's pressures. So many are backpedaling. But American Airlines said, we standing 10 toes down. Okay, we love to see it. And we support companies that support us. Family, for our last story today, I'm talking about BET again. And that makes this little Black queer girl's heart smile, okay? As somebody who grew up watching BET, the fact that they are supporting and standing alongside Black queer folks right now is so important. Y'all remember a few weeks ago, I talked about their Black and Iconic event where they celebrated some of the brightest Black queer leaders across the country in various sectors. Well, today, let's talk about a new show that they've picked up on BET Plus that is all about the world of ballroom. It's called House on Fire, and it's a docuseries following the legendary House of Miyake Mugler, okay? And I have watched it. Child, it's everything. It's everything you think it is. And it's not just entertainment, it's about visibility. As house father Yusef Miyake Mugler said to Gossip, I am elated. I was happy about World of Wonder taking a chance and really putting us in a space that wasn't there, helping create this space. That was a big deal. We talked to a lot of networks, and people were scared of this. People of color, Black, trans, queer, fabulous, not the stereotypical type of people you would normally see on television. But BET Plus chose to invest in telling these real stories, giving ballroom culture the spotlight it deserves. And as exotic Miyake Mugler powerfully put it, this is a turning point. In our Black and brown community, we are not the most accepted. This shows that change is happening, that change is here. Family, House on Fire captures the beauty, struggles, and truth of chosen family. And it matters because seeing ourselves reflected on screen tells us, yes, we are here. Yes, we belong. Yes, we aren't going anywhere. You follow their ballroom competitions, child, there's always family drama, which always makes for good television. And they are beautiful, okay? They are just fabulous, and they are driven. You are watching them pursue their individual dreams all at the same time. So if you haven't watched it, go ahead, stream it on BET Plus, okay? Because we want more content like this. You know it's time for Anna's Got a Word, because Anna's always got a word. And today, I just want to end with some quotes from Jewel Tyus Williams herself, because researching her, reading about her, learning more about who she was in the world, she's goals. She's goals, and I'm inspired by what she built and what she's leaving behind. And I just want to leave some words, some of her words with you. How about that? She said, look in the mirror every day and say, I love you just as you are. Now, y'all know I love me a good affirmation, okay? And so just know I'm going to be in the mirror saying, I love you just as you are. I love you just as you are. I love you just as you are. And then another quote, she said, like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I want to be remembered as a champion for justice. And as Dr. King also once said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? I take that as an ongoing personal challenge to myself. I am grateful to have been allowed to play my part in positively impacting the lives of many by allowing my steps to be guided and by answering the call to serve. And by the grace of God, I am thankful that I didn't have to take this journey alone. Thank you to all who have been there with me. Family, do you understand? Are you answering your call in this moment? If you are not answering your call, please wake up, answer the phone, okay? Okay? The call needs you right now. I think often about my mentor, Connie. She tells me I was built for such a time as this. And let me tell you something. If you're listening to this podcast, you were built and born for a time such as this. It is not an accident that we are here right now. This is our generational fight and time, and we must show up for it. But we must show up doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And y'all better be looking in that mirror saying, I love you just the way you are, okay? Come on, Jewel. Thank you. Thank you, Jewel. Thank you. And family, we'll talk next week. Peace. If you've enjoyed what you heard, rate and review us inside your favorite podcasting app. This podcast is written and produced by me, Anna DeShawn. Podcast editing by Ryan Woodhall. And brought to you by E3 Radio and distributed on The Cube. We are Queer News Done Right.